Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Shamini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. The newly elected Syriza government of Greece is trying to get its house in order and end austerity. The new government unveiled proposals on Monday to end the confrontation with its creditors, the Troika. The new finance minister, Yanis Varoufakis, suggested swapping outstanding debt for new growth-linked bonds and also running a permanent budget surplus and targeting wealthy tax evaders. To discuss all of this is our guest, Costas Panayotakis. He's the author of Remaking Scarcity, From Capitalist Inefficiency to Economic Democracy. Costas, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show.
So, Costas, your book essentially is right on the mark in terms of its dedication to the very issue that we are trying to tackle right now, looking at the case of capitalist mismanagement of the Greek economy and the fact that they now have to switch to a more democratically led economy. What does that really mean?
The idea of economic democracy I discuss in my book is that basically, all people within a society should have, as much as possible, an equal say over the functioning of the economy on which their subsistence depends. So the concept of economic democracy encompasses many different things. Anything that promotes economic and political equality is consistent with the concept of economic democracy. So in the case of Greece, restoring labor rights and collective bargaining rights that have been destroyed, liquidated as a result of the austerity package is consistent with economic democracy. Trying to break the power and the hold of the Greek oligarchs over the media would be consistent with economic democracy. Trying to restore a sense of justice where, again, Greek oligarchs pay their fair share of taxes, which they have not done. So economic democracy refers to any move towards equalization of the say that ordinary people have over the priorities and the functioning of the economic system.
And part of it must also be to perhaps engage the people in resolving the economic issues of the country, which means a more participatory economy. And what kind of such ideas currently exist in Greece that could be put into motion?
Yeah, I think this is one of the type of initiative that Syriza has talked about and favors. The idea, for example, of there are some examples, not as common as in Argentina, for example, but examples of companies in Greece in recent years that have developed that are democratically controlled by their workers, and they, some of them are sort of stores, others. There's a factory in Thessaloniki. There is even a major newspaper in Greece. So that would be one example. There are also other kinds of initiatives like consumer co-ops. I was in Greece just a few days ago. The neighborhood where I grew up, there is a consumer cooperative that has developed in the last couple of years as a way of helping to cope people with the difficult situation they're dealing with. So yeah, certainly participation is an important component of economic democracy. And when it comes to participation, for example, in economic endeavors, it also can enrich political democracy as well, because it gives people a know-how and confidence and sort of technocratic management skills that they can use when they evaluate political debates. And, of course, economic debates are paramount in Greece nowadays because of the crisis. So yes, participation is a very important element of economic democracy. And one of the things that Syriza has said is that they recognize that their success, that what they want is to go against the logic of representation, where the voters elect them and then they sit back and they look at the politicians, Tsipras or Varoufakis or the other ministers, and see what they achieve. Their argument is that they need the people next to them to push with them for the necessary changes that have to be made, not just in the relationship with Europe, but internally as well, domestically as well.
Right. And one very curious question is, where is the labor unions in this movement of Syriza's? Is there active labor unions in conversation with Syriza at the moment?
Well, the labor movement in Greece historically was dominated by the Socialist Party and the Conservatives, and the Communist Party as well has had a lot of influence historically. Syriza was not quite as strong in the labor movement. More recently, what has happened is much of the base of the Socialist Party has moved to Syriza, and that includes some of the labor leaders who used to be socialist, and they're part of Syriza. And then, of course, you have more recent grassroots labor sort of movement initiatives, new forms of labor unions that have been bubbling up. But the labor movement in Greece has been under, very heavy and ruthless attack in the recent years. And it seems like even though there was some fight back by Greek workers, it was clear that the labor movement in Greece, the way it historically developed, was not ready for this kind of assault. They were more used to hobnobbing with people in power. And when the attack came with the economic crisis, they were completely unprepared. So, one of the hopes that activists that I talk to have is that the election of Syriza will basically embolden people and will rejuvenate the labor movement and sort of give a further push to Syriza and put some pressure on Syriza to make sure that Syriza delivers on its promises.
Right. Costas, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be writing this story for a long time to come, so I hope you join us again.
I will be happy to. Thank you for having me on your show.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.